Hello and welcome. We are live. Welcome to Zero Gravity, sponsored by Object First. My name is Matt Price. I'll be your host today. And as you can see, we're joined by one of my colleagues, Mr. Ryan Post. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me on again.
Happy to have you back as always, brother. So, a couple quick housekeeping notes. Let us know where you're tuning in from. So, where in the world, where in your home office are you actually watching the stream? You're watching it on your phone, on an actual computer. Let us know. Engage with us in the chat, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube. And you may be wondering where Sterling and Anthony are. So, they are actually at the RSA conference right now. So, they sent me this picture of them having a grand old time with Mr. Joe Gramillion, none other, from Veeam. So they're actually at this event. They shared a recorded message where Anthony sits down with Jason Garbus from Numberline Research, and we're going to roll that in just a bit. But they're not going to be on today's show. You can catch them next week if you tune in. So with that said, let's see. Do we have anybody letting us know in the chat where they're tuning in from? I don't see it yet. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and jump in. So interesting things in your home office. I've got to start here, Ryan, with saying that I'm a huge Elgato fan, right? So anybody who knows me knows that I'm a techie when it comes to my home office gear. Guilty, got to have the latest and greatest. So I actually started off with the Elgato Face Cam Non-Pro. And what you're seeing on the screen now is the Face Cam Pro. So when they launched this product, one of my gripes, because we do a lot of local recording for streams like this, it's not really as big a deal because normally you're not streaming at 4K, right? So this stream, depending on which platform you're seeing it in, might be 1080p. It may be downscaled to 720p. So wasn't really a big issue, but because we record locally, one of the things we really wanted to do is have 4K consistency when we push videos to something like YouTube, as an example. So the Facecam wouldn't really do that. So when they launched this Facecam Pro with support at 4K 60, I was on the bandwagon immediately. Now, one of the things that's a little funny is after I ordered this, it wasn't too long that they came out with, and let me get to cameras, this guy. And this is another awesome innovation. So I'm showing these two sort of in tandem because they pair together. This is their prompter. Now, as you guys know, there's absolutely nothing on this show that's scripted. we don't have scripts that you're reading. That's very obvious at this point. But what this allows you to do is actually look at the audience when you're doing streams, when you're doing video recordings. Sure, it could double as a prompter if you wanted to throw a couple bullets up there to jog your memory. But what's really cool is this mates perfectly with the Facecam Pro. So these two working together as a unit, right on the back of the display, that to me is an amazing setup. Now, full disclosure, this will also work with non Elgato cameras. So if you have like a DSLR, if you have another webcam, they send you the adapter plate where you can set different cameras in there. This show is sponsored by Object First, not Elgato, but I am a huge fan, and this is something that I personally use here in my office. So just wanted to share it with you guys this morning. So Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you make me jealous with all the technology you have for all these videos. I know you got me hooked up with the Elgato camera. I don't think it's the Pro, but I think it still looks good. Sometimes too much detail, I feel like, when I look back at some of these recordings. But no, it's great. And prompter is pretty cool. I'd love to watch a video or
Yeah.
two on how that works.
Yeah, it's
What that makes. It's an interesting looking device.
absolutely super straightforward, easy to set up, and the way that I've got mine mounted is on one of those monopods. So it's basically a
Hmm,
tripod with a pole, that comes straight up, and it
sure.
mounts right at the top of the monitor, so you can look right past the screen into the actual camera. So I've got that, and Ryan, I know you're rocking it as well. But again, I wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about the Elgato mic as well. So pretty
Oh yeah.
much, you hit Elgato's website, and I own about three-fourths of the things on there because I also have my stream decks, which we'll save that for another show.
Yeah, definitely addressing those. I can't wait to hear about those. So.
Right on. What do you got that's interesting?
Yeah, so I mean, it's nothing interesting I use, say, on an everyday basis. But one thing I don't know why it took so long for me to jump on board, but was one of these portable monitors that you can get just slides right into, a
Yes.
backpack or briefcase, whatever it may be, and there's you go on Amazon, there is all sorts of options that you can go with. Some that are, the name brands you've heard of, some of the ones that are on the cheaper side. I think I went right in the middle, found one that had a good discount. It's been a lifesaver, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you're traveling and you're either at a hotel or maybe you're in the middle of the airport and you need the work, and that single laptop monitor just doesn't cut it. You need the extra space so you can use both monitors, or even go on a vacation and working a little bit remotely, because we do have that flexibility to do that. It just gives that extra space, extra monitor that I'm used to at home, where I have two, I don't know, 26-inch monitors right in front of me. That makes things a lot more efficient, especially, giving product demos or presenting on whatever it may be. It just makes it a lot easier having the additional space. So I know a lot of people on our team and here at Object First, have started using these a lot, and they come in handy. So,
I remember the day that I went from a single display to dual screens, and it was a hot minute ago. I won't say my age, but it was a game changer back then.
oh yeah,
And just the sheer thought of having a single screen in today's world is just mind boggling. And it's
it's
funny because you take your laptop on travel, somehow you make it work with just a single screen most times.
hmm
But to your point, having something like that that's sleek, that's thin, that you can just drop in your bag to give you that secondary screen, that now means you can actually have effective meetings when you need to share
right.
and you know exactly what's over there. And again, it's super portable. I've got one similar to that, and I don't know if yours is this way, but essentially mine is all one cable. It's just USB-C.
hmm
That's it. So it's pretty straightforward. It actually pulls its power, through the laptop. So
Yeah,
pretty innovative stuff, low power draws. I mean, heck, some of them are OLED. So, I mean, and
yeah.
you get great quality, out of the little screen. So, definitely something I would want, when I travel.
Yeah, it makes sense as too. Another good thing is, like, going to the smaller trade shows, where you maybe want to have something running, like a little presentation automatically, or some videos just looping. You just throw it up on the table. It's not your
Yeah.
entire laptop, and
Yep.
it just makes it look good. Adds a little extra feature to a table where it's just pins and notebooks and swag. Kind of stand apart from everybody else. Having something else going on. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I wanted to share some quick footage, and we're actually going to use you guys as a test drive for Restream. So right now we're in 16 by 9. We're about to shift us to vertical just for a temporary second. I want to show you some footage that the guys, Sterling and Anthony, recorded from the RSA show floor. So stand by. Let's roll this footage.
hey, Matt, you're on mute.
Yeah,
There
sorry.
you
I muted to make sure we didn't get a
go.
loop back. I was like, please tell me you saw some of the breach blast in that footage. I saw that, and I saw Cloudflare, and I use Cloudflare all the time for DNS lookups. Yeah, so that's where the guys are at right now on the floor. And what I want to do now, give me 2 seconds here. I can only share one video at a time. I want to share this video that Anthony sat down with Jason Garbus from Numberline Research, and he's the author of the Zero Trust Data Resilience, methodology and white paper. So it's a 3-minute video. Let's take a look, and then Ryan, you and I can have some thoughts on it
Yeah.
afterward.
Hey, Zero Gravity fam, how's it going? We're at RSA. I am joined by my good friend Jason Garbus, author of Zero Trust Data Resilience, and he's got some inside scoops for us at RSA 2024. So I just landed this morning. Jason, you've been here a minute. What's the buzz at RSA?
It feels like RSA is back after bouncing back from pandemic and bouncing around on the calendar. The organizers told me they had a record number of conference submissions. Over 2,700 people applied to present. And the agenda looks really good. I'm so busy, it's going to be hard to find time to go to some of these sessions. But there's a lot on the docket about AI. There's a lot about zero trust. And the vendor floor, I was down there for some pre-booth, some pre-show meetings in the booths. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of excitement and a lot of activity. So get ready, everyone.
We're definitely ready. Now, you said AI. Is there a lot of buzz about that going around this year? Is that going to be the hot button topic?
For better or for worse, there is, yes. Obviously, AI is the big thing this year, but I think that's there, and of course there is a ton of hype around that. Right. So I would challenge folks to look past that and ask some tough questions and really try to understand from your vendors, what do you mean by AI? Is it machine learning? How is this going to make it easier for me as a customer of your things? There's also I would say a kind of a subtext of zero trust around this, right? One of our favorite topics. There's still a lot of vendors talking about zero trust, and I think it's really, we're at the point where zero trust is entering the mainstream and it's showing its strength as not a buzzword, but a real world strategy that delivers a lot of both security and business value. So those are great things as well. If you're here, to ask your vendors who are marketing around zero trust, great. What does that mean to you? How are we using, how can I help how can I use your solution to deliver zero trust for my enterprise?
So you've said zero trust. We talk about zero trust a lot on this show. Zero Trust Data Resilience, you've authored that. What's the latest on that?
So Zero Trust Data Resilience is a set of concepts that really Anthony and myself and folks from Veeam came up with around taking the zero trust concepts and applying them and extending them to the notion of backup and recovery. And we really think that, number one, data backup and recovery is such an important topic, and it's always a target for malicious actors and ransomware attackers. It really needs to be part of an organization's security strategy. And this doesn't mean taking ownership of it. It means let's bring this in with our best practices and treat it with the respect and the urgency that it really deserves. So what we've done with Zero Trust Data Resilience is applied a model of defining 3 principles around what this means to have a separation or segmentation of your data backup software and the storage, the ability to support multiple resilience zones on different types of media, different geographic locations, and of course, immutable storage for the backups. You apply those things and you can begin to achieve zero trust in your data backup and recovery environment.
I love it. And I know Matt's hosting the show right now and he's got the QR code. So if you could put that up, show that link to read the Zero Trust white paper so you can get all the information Jason's talking about here. Jason, as always, thanks for joining us on the show and have a great rest of RSA.
Thank you.
Love it. Great interview, Anthony and Jason. And, I'm going to take this opportunity to also shout out Jason. Coming up at Veeam On, we're going to do another live stream with Anthony, myself, and Jason that we'll be bringing to you live right here on the YouTube channel, as well as LinkedIn, depending on where you're watching, where we're going to get a little bit deeper into demystifying this zero trust data resilience model. And, Ryan, just like Anthony said, we talk about this a lot here at Object First with ZTDR. And effectively, one of the things that really jumped out to me, they're at the RSA conference, which is all about security and encryption. And we're talking about ZTDR, where, one of the fundamental principles there is segmentation. And, I always feel like for me, that's one that really jumps off the page, that it's such a natural fit with us and Veeam because we allow Veeam customers to achieve that fundamentally, right? Just because of the way we're paired up.
No, I mean, I agree. And, like Jason said, it's coming into the mainstream, talking about zero trust. And as he said, go talk to a vendor and what does zero trust mean to them. And of course, we have our whole spiel around, the three principles that really make it key for us. But that might not be the same for other vendors, because there's, again, a lot of principles that fall under zero trust, and maybe not everything fits perfectly. So I think it is important for anybody to understand what does zero trust mean to a vendor. And that's a completely different story compared to AI and machine learning with all the other vendors, as Jason mentioned, because I feel like that is all over the place. So at least I think
Yeah.
zero trust has a little bit more narrowed focus on what it stands for.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree, and I think when you focus on security, really the last thing I'll mention here, and we'll get to some of our topics, Ryan. But we talk a lot about hardware purchase decisions. When we're having chats with customers, and when you look 3, 5, 7 years back, the reason people purchased backup storage back then, yes, security may have been a checkbox, security may have been a concern, but it wasn't the fundamental buying decision. It was capacity, it was performance, maybe it was vendor, right? Maybe there's a certain vendor that the partner sells, and there's already a relationship there. So there were a lot of other things going on. Fast forward to the recent years with the rise of just cyber threats in general, be they
Mhm.
ransomware or any other type of threat. Security is no longer in the back of the conversation. It's now arguably a leading conversation
Sure
starter
is.
when you're looking at where are you going with your data. Where are your backups landing? Is it secure? Is it immutable? And I feel like fundamentally the ZTDR model is a great model for anyone to follow who is super concerned about their data, that realizes the threat that ransomware poses is real. It's not a myth, it's not the if comment, it's the when. We all talk about this all the time. So fundamentally, having that segmentation, having immutability
Yep.
that you don't have to babysit, that's enabled out of the gate, and it's hardened by default, it's secure always. So all this stuff works together and really makes a perfect pairing with Veeam. And you talk about AI, so let me pivot a bit to the topic that I wanted to bring up. And I find this fascinating. And for those of you, who watch the show, we're techies, we have gadgets. I've showed the Osmo Pocket. We talked about all the Elgato gear. The one thing that I have yet to purchase is the world of 3D printing. And, there's all kinds of crazy 3D printers out there. I know some colleagues that have these. More times than not, though, they're small. They're like the size of a Keurig or a
Hmm.
microwave oven. This is the world's largest 3D printer that's actually up in Maine. And I was reading through this article. I just find this fascinating. It's basically building 600 square foot homes, 3D printing these homes. And it can, in this article, I'm not going to skim through everything, but it is able to build or 3D print a single piece that, get this, is the size of a blue whale. I'm like,
Wow.
put that into perspective. This machine is 3D printing something, I think it's like 96 feet long or something incredibly huge, to build houses. And this was, I think, first rolled out in 2018, I believe it was, and
Hmm.
it got the Guinness Book of Records as being the largest one officially in the world. And I just like when we talked about space the other day and exploration and things like that, imagine where this tech is going to be in 10 years. Like, what are they going to be 3D printing in 10 years? Like, it's phenomenal to think about how this tech works. And for me, the one area where I've always kind of been like, is it seems to be fragile, and the stuff that you
Hmm.
and is, especially for consumer grade stuff, is not that durable. But these guys, I mean, they're using like carbon fiber and all this other type of material that is durable. So it's a very viable option to 3D print something like a house. So imagine what that could do, when you start deploying these at scale. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you think. Like, I mean, what could a contractor do with one of these, printers? I mean, if it would be cost effective to go mainstream to help contractors build houses, what does that do for the industry of the workers, right? That
Yeah.
build, if they're not needed to necessarily put all the framing together or whatever this is printing.
Yep.
It's almost like self checkout, at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It reduces those workers or the kiosks of wherever you're, ordering food from. But yeah, I mean, that's I think it also be used for sustainable material as well, a
Yeah.
lot in that recycling front. So I think there's a lot of things that it could help out, but a lot of questions, I would say, for that long term usage.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say 3D print employees to actually man the self-checkouts. 'Cause it never fails, you go in there and there's, like,
Right,
2 people working.
yeah, you plug in,
Um,
a little computer, little Raspberry Pi with all the AI on
there you
there to
go.
do everything, right?
I mean, like, what could be 3D printed to save time and money and, to your point, valuable resources and labor? Houses is just one thing, but
Hmm.
imagine all the other things that are smaller, more achievable. Really cool technology, and I like the fact that they're exploring different materials to
Right.
3D print with, because I think that has always fundamentally, at least from what I've seen, kind of been my reservation. It's like, yeah, I could buy the thing, it's expensive. I 3D print a little piece and it snaps because it's cheap plastic.
Right.
So what do I do with it then, right? But this is next level. This is industrial grade. So
Yeah,
really
I've
cool
seen some
stuff.
of the
So
videos with cement. I feel like, with the robot
yep,
going around pouring the cement like in a circle or,
yep,
whatever pattern it needs to be, and it slowly builds up everything. So
I have
yeah, it'll
seen
definitely
those
be
as
interesting.
well. It's crazy stuff. So what do you got, Ryan?
Yeah, so a lot of people, may know I'm especially in the object first family, and people that I'm not necessarily a big Apple fan when it comes to using an
No.
iPhone. I've always been an Android user, but if you really know me, y'all also know I loved my Windows Phone. The live tiles were game changing, back in the day on the Nokia Lumia. But I think with the transition, what you've seen over time, really, with phones is everything's right there on your hand, and it's very easily, to get distracted. Whether it's looking up sports scores and you pull into something else, or you're out shopping and you want to see if there's a better price somewhere, so you have it right there in your hands. You may get distracted by all the ads on Instagram or whatever social media platform that you follow. But everything's right there, and I think there's different spectrums of where people fall in on phones and distractions. But one technology I came across was this minimal phone. Now there are some other phones out there. I mean, there's something called the light phone, which is a very dumbed down approach to the phone. I mean, really there for calling, texting, music, and that's pretty much it. This takes it a step further. And what one thing that really sticks out in my mind on this particular phone that's coming out, I want to say in August later this year, is the full QWERTY keyboard. Right, take you back to those BlackBerry days, tactile. So if they execute, I feel like it's a great option. It also has a headphone jack, which is something you don't get from many phones. And obviously there's people that talk about wireless and Bluetooth and how it affects the brain and the body. So again,
Mhm.
something else to make it more minimal. But what's great about this and the research, at least that I've seen and what they've released about it is running full Android. So you get all that functionality of the Google Play Store. You get the ability to run apps. I think there's a screenshot here where you can see the Uber, or they got the WhatsApp, you got email. So really everything that you can do on a normal Android phone, you really should be able to do on this Google Pay or whatever pay platform you want to use with NFC. Um, so I think, to me, I would love something that would take a little bit of that distraction away from everything else that goes on the phone, because things aren't going to look as great on this e-ink display, right? Versus, the nice, full, colorful, 4K resolution. I'm sure they're coming out with 8K phones these days as well.
Mhm.
But it's just something different, right? Something to take with you. And I think productivity would actually be pretty beneficial on this as well with that full keyboard. So I don't see there being an issue with email when you're out traveling on the road. I think one of the biggest issues I had back on the Windows Phone was app support, back in the day. And,
Yeah.
traveling, the Delta app would never work. So I'd always have to get a printed ticket, or, apps would crash when you're trying to call an Uber back in the day. So
Yeah.
again, if it's fully functional, it can do 90% of the apps that I would use on a regular basis throughout the day, or, through traveling and productivity. I think it's a great option to take some of the distractions out.
First
I know it's
thought,
not as techy as you would be, with how you are, Matt. Um,
well,
so
my first thought was this would be great for my kids, like, because that's one of my biggest fears is,
yep,
like, I want my kids to have a phone, and then I don't want my kids to have a phone, for completely separate reasons, right? I want them to be connected and have a lifeline, should they
yep,
need to get in touch with us, but I also don't want them to be just browsing Google unrestrained because they're too young for that, right? So to me, this is what jumps out immediately. And I know there's parental controls and
Hmm.
stuff that you can try to implement on smartphones. But the reality is, if you humans make errors, right? If you don't have it locked down just right, there may be ways that they can circumvent it. But if you do something like this, that's just like, here's your basic phone functionality, and
Right.
it's kind of funny because I think about this in relationship to TVs. When was the last time you were able to just stroll in a Best Buy and buy a dumb TV? Like, I don't want any brain. I just want to plug in my HDMI or DisplayPort cable and let it display a picture. I don't need the little, Apple TV-ish, like,
Hmm.
built-in smarts, because 9 out of 10 times they're terrible. Like, they don't have enough power, they can start stuttering, and they
Oh
just
yeah.
don't have enough, I would say, oomph to really use. So for me, and I'm not trying to diverge from the phone, but like, I use
No.
Apple TV on the TV to be the brain. Just give me a dumb TV. I
Right.
kind of, circle this back to the phone. Just give me a dumb phone. Give me a phone that can make calls, send texts, and basically that's it, right? And I know there's some out there, that are specifically designed for kids, but I like the keyboard on this one. To your
Yes.
point, going back to the old days of the Blackberries, I had the one with the little wheel in the middle, and went through the click screen, Blackberry, and I do remember when they diverged. You said it earlier, from the tactile keys,
Oh yeah.
they lost to their, a lot of their loyal fan base there. So, I definitely think it's got a spot in the market.
Yeah.
But to your
I think
point, it's how they execute on it.
it's how they execute it, and it also, I'd say, how the carriers allow it to come on. I know
Yep,
I've struggled with my carrier with not buying a phone through them, and they don't allow Wi-Fi calling, which doesn't make sense, right? Because
yeah,
you're paying for the phone service, so why can't you just do
right,
Wi-Fi calling? You're already paying them their money, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So
yep,
that's one issue I've had with non carrier phones, which I've had to make changes over the years so Wi-Fi calling would work. So
yeah,
running a Samsung phone now to be able to do that. Um, but yeah, I think it just goes back to distraction. It goes back to running the second monitor, right? When
yeah,
you're trying to present, when you're on the road, you don't have pop-ups going everywhere and then distracting because you're forced to use your single monitor. You're having to
yep,
lock down and turn off apps. So I think this
yep,
it's a great option, definitely for kids. I agree. I'll have 4 of those at some point. That will
yeah,
the cell phones are going to be a question. I know my oldest is only in second grade, and there's already kids that have phones. I'm like, this is
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's out of hand,
So
man. 'Cause I've got 2 myself, and you're right. It's like the age at which kids are starting to get phones keeps going down, and it's disturbing because, like I said, my kid doesn't need a smartphone until they're,
right,
mid-teens or whatever the case is, right? For what? You need to be able to text and call people.
exactly,
That's it,
exactly. I think get back to the
so
Nextel, right?
yeah.
Little walkie-talkie style. That you know that's all they get.
Yeah, that was like circa day 2001, 2000, when you could do the boop boop, and
Oh
just
yeah.
be like a walkie-talkie. So awesome stuff, guys. Well, listen, let's start to wrap up. But before we do, I want to throw this out there as well. We are running a weekly raffle for a chance to win a pass to VMon. So be sure to check that out. Scan the QR code if you'd like to enter. VMon, we're getting down there on the 2nd. The show is officially from the 3rd through the 5th. Our booth is G4. So be sure to come check us out, have some conversations with us. We'll be there. We'll be doing some live streams. Ryan will be doing some live demos there in the booth.
Yep.
So if you've never seen, the solution in action and you want to take a look at it down at VMon, perfect opportunity to do that. You can swing by at any point in time. We're going to have some really cool swag there as well. So be sure to check that out. And we're also, I mentioned live streams. So we talked about we're going to do another live stream with Jason and Anthony and I. Our co-host, partner in crime, Sterling, is actually going to be interviewing Ratmir, one of our co-founders. So we're going to have a live stream with him interviewing Ratmir. And we've got a special announcement we're going to live stream on the very first day. So stay tuned for that. With that said, Ryan, any closing final thoughts or comments?
No, I'm just glad to be on the show again today and sync up and talk about some of the cool technology out there. Bringing in the minimal phone. Talking about large 3D printing,
Yeah.
but most importantly, hitting on what's happening out there at RSA. I mean,
Yeah.
keeping that top of mind, security, especially for us, Zero Trust. So
Yeah, totally agree. I think RSA is a big deal, and I'm so glad that we're represented out there because I do think that's a fundamental shift in the, let's just call it the data industry at large. Doesn't matter where you're at. If you work with data, security is now a forefront. And, I love the fact that we're on the cutting edge. You don't have to be a security expert to use our solution, which is amazing, right? Because the learning curve, there is none, because you don't have to worry about that. We've taken care of all that for you. So, an amazing pairing with Veeam. So again, thanks everyone for stopping by. If you'd like to learn more, reach out to us, sync with us on the socials. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, share this video, subscribe to the channel for sure. If you're on LinkedIn, thank you for joining. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And stay weightless, stay frictionless. We'll see you guys next week and at VeeamON in a few weeks down the road. Take care, guys.